On January 14th, 1987, Shigeru Miyamoto and a team of Nintendo creators released a brand new game called Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. To many of you, this game may sound like the classic Zelda game people know and love, but when you look at the gameplay, it may seem a bit off. So I thought, hey, why not do a video on it breaking down all of its parts and explaining where it stands in video game history. So one question that struck me was, why doesn't anyone talk about it? And for the most part, The Adventure of Link is likely seen as uninteresting compared to the other titles. Its gameplay is unlike any other Zelda game, and the original art even looks so similar to the original that I passed it up upon first search for it. Now I'm sure at the time of its release it drew more attention, but nowadays people remember The Legend of Zelda and Link to the Past much more fondly than the game between it. Despite the obvious reasons for its overlook, it strikes me as strange just how completely forgotten the game was. So why was that? Well, simply put, it started as another game. The more that I read up, the more interesting the game became. Shigeru Miyamoto had actually started Zelda 2 as a completely different project, hoping to establish a new side-scrolling sword and shield game for the Famicom, or, as it was known in America, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Away into the development, however, Miyamoto decided to attach the Zelda name and story to the game for its release. One thing's for sure, The Adventure of Link also offers an interesting story to the Zelda mythos. The Link incarnation that you play as in Zelda 2 is actually the same one as the first game, and unlike most other titles released under the Zelda branding, the mission is not to defeat Ganon. This time, Link is faced with obtaining the third part of the Triforce, the Triforce of Courage, to awaken a sleeping Zelda, and you actually don't fight Ganon at all in this game. You fight another familiar boss, but we'll cover that in a later point. Zelda 2 also has drastically different gameplay. As mentioned before, The Adventure of Link is a full side-scrolling sword and shield action game, completely changing the previously established combat system from the first game. Once you clear a dungeon or leave a town, you're also presented with an overhead view of the world in which towns, environments, coastlines, dungeons, and monsters can be encountered, found, entered, or destroyed. You take on more of these areas and explore, leveling up your character's life and magic as you go. You also collect items and new moves along the way, changing your capabilities and skill level. By the way, this system had never been seen before, and it's now one of the most widely used pieces of game design. Honestly though, this game is super hard. You now have a 3-life system unlike the past game, and a lot of the enemies you face are quite intelligent in their design. The bosses of the dungeon are also quite challenging as well, but I've said it before and I'll say it again, high difficulty is a positive to me. Even for the time, the developers saw that action games had to be challenging to invest audiences. If a game was too easy, it would just be finished quickly and put down forever, like I do with some games. Cash grab AAA titles. Was that a good cover-up? Now I will say that the game was trying very hard, but a lot of the game is confusing. From the dungeons to the towns, and even walking around in the overworld map can be a complete shot in the dark. A lot of stuff you just have to know or sink 1,000 hours into. That kind of difficulty doesn't really exist. It's sort of just a filler feeling. And even back when it was released, people had to have been frustrated a bit. I mean, come on. Sorry, a town is just in the middle of the woods, somewhere, with no clear directions towards it. You just have to know that. There's also a ton of other examples of stuff like this too. Needless to say, you're gonna need a walkthrough or a die-hard Zelda 2 fan to complete the game. Also, technical limitations made it weird. Yeah, I don't really need to say too much about this because I think that you guys can see some of the weird stuff. Nevertheless, Zelda 2 did try hard. Given only 13 background colors and 12 sprite colors in total to work with at once, it is a challenge. This being said, the overworld map actually looks similar to the original title. and it's clear that the development team was trying their best to advance the graphics with the technology available. It may not look the greatest, but compared to the original, it was a step in the right direction. I mean, they get an A for effort. Nostalgia also plays very heavily upon the title. Nowadays, I think most know that nostalgia is important when talking about video gaming, so we're going to talk about it here and how it applies to this title. Most of the current die-hard fans of The Adventure of Link were kids that grew up with it, and as much as I don't like using nostalgia as a judge for a game, I kinda get it. The game showed a variety and freshness to video games as a whole, and historically that's important. I won't say that this makes it a good game, because that's hypocritical at this point. All I'm saying is that the game shouldn't be overlooked completely or judged as the best game of all time. It did what it did, and if you like it, good for you. Moving on to more of a positive point, it had a lot of stuff that seeped into other games. There's a ton that's forgotten about The Adventure of Link. Some of the movements and attacks that Link uses in Zelda 2 are featured in Smash Bros. The names of the towns are names of significant characters in Ocarina of Time. Ganon is established as able to return after death, and the final boss, Dark Link, is used in a multitude of other games linked to the Zelda series. There's so many more aspects about this game that are just not acknowledged, and that's kinda sad to me. I think there should be credit where credit is due, and not giving that to Zelda 2 is a huge misstep in the video game community. So, after all of those points, should Zelda 2 be played or even learned from at all? I'm not gonna lie, this one kind of has me stumped. Like I said before, with a guide, sure, why not? I'm not gonna lie though, this game is really polarizing. You either love it or hate it. So, if you do decide to give it a try, best of luck, and I really do hope you like it. If not for the gameplay, for the history. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like or a comment about what you think about Zelda 2. That would really help me out. If you want to, subscribe for more. See you later.